What if the scariest monster you could ever face wasn't some demon or ghost, but your own mind turned completely against you? Well, today we're going to break down the terrifying Hindi legend of the Chhalava. It's a shapeshifter that literally weaponizes your perception of reality. So let's dig in and figure out what makes this story so unbelievably chilling.
All right, put yourself in this situation for a second. Imagine you've got nothing. Your family is starving. And then someone offers you a deal that could save them all. The catch? You just have to spend one single night guarding a haunted field. That's the choice at the very heart of this story. What would you do?
So, our story kicks off in the village of Samapura, and things are bleak. There's this strange, heavy feeling just hanging in the air. Fear is something you can almost touch here, and believe me, it's about to get a whole lot worse. The way the story sets the scene here is just incredible. The moon's hidden, the air is thick, and the wheat fields, they aren't rustling with the promise of a good harvest. No, instead, they sound like 1,000 snakes on dry leaves. That is such an unsettling image, right? It takes something that should represent life and twists it into a warning. The people of Sampura are basically trapped between two nightmares. On one hand, you've got the very real physical threat of starvation, because a mysterious fire just wiped out a neighboring village's crops, and on the other hand, there are whispers. Whispers of something unnatural, a dark shadow that's haunting the fields. It's this mix of real-world desperation and supernatural terror that makes it all so effective. Right into the middle of this terrified village walk three outsiders, and they're about to get an offer that could be their salvation or, well, their absolute doom. Okay, so let's meet our guys, Suresh, Papu, and Sarvan. They're poor laborers, total outsiders who have no idea about the village's fears. Suresh is kind of the steady, experienced one. Papu is the practical thinker. And then there's Sarvan, who's skeptical and kind of bitter from all the hardship he's faced. It's their sheer desperation that's going to push them into making a fateful choice. And this is the offer. 3 quintals of wheat for each man. Now, to you and me, that might just be a number. But to them, it's everything. It's security. It's food on the table for their families for months. It's a fortune they just can't refuse, no matter how big the risk is. This quote from Sarvan, our skeptic, just perfectly sums up their mindset. He asks, what fear is there for one who has nothing to lose? You know, it's that kind of bravado that's born from having no other options. And with that, they accept the job. They'll guard the fields for one night. So the deal is struck. The 3 men head out to the fields, and the entire village just locks its doors, sealing them in with whatever it is that's lurking out there in the dark. And this is where things start to get really strange. They build themselves a little fire under a makeshift watchtower. It's this tiny little island of light in a huge sea of darkness and rustling wheat. And the silence is just absolute. It's so quiet that every tiny sound, even a leaf falling, sounds like a huge explosion. It's enough to put anyone on edge. And then all of a sudden, their watch is interrupted. A magnificent deer just appears out of thin air. It's beautiful, but its eyes, they're glowing with this unnatural red light. Sarvan rushes over to shoo it away, but as he gets close, poof, it just vanishes. No tracks, no sound, absolutely nothing. This is their first brush with something that just defies all logic.
This bizarre event jogs Papu's memory. He starts to remember these old stories from a village elder, a guy named Balalakaka, who talked about a Chhalava. Now, here's the crucial part. A Chhalava isn't a ghost or a demon, not in the way we usually think of them. It's described as an illusory energy, basically a force that doesn't attack your body, it attacks your mind.
So according to these old legends, the Chhalava is a master of deception. It can show up as an animal, just like the deer they saw. Or, and this is way more terrifying, it can take the form of someone you know, or even a perfect copy of yourself. Its real power is psychological warfare. It turns your own senses against you.
And get this, just as they're talking about this, Suresh spots a figure at the edge of the field. It's a man in white, just standing there, perfectly still. They think he's a thief, so they give chase, but the figure moves in this weird way, almost gliding, before it just disappears into the brush. They find nothing. The tension is just ratcheting up like crazy.
The men get back to their camp, totally unnerved and confused. But the true horror, the real test of their sanity, that is just about to begin.
I want you to really think about this moment. They walk back to the fire and they see Papu. But the real Papu is walking right there beside them. This duplicate looks identical, right down to an old scar on his hand. And then it speaks, in Papu's voice, and asks them where they've been.
The panic is just immediate and total. The duplicate is calmly claiming he's the real one, while the actual Papu is screaming in terror. Suresh and Sarvaran are just frozen, looking back and forth between these two identical men. Who is real?
And then, the illusion shifts. The duplicate just melts and reforms into a perfect copy of Sarvan. All of a sudden, it's not just Papu's crisis anymore. Now two of them are facing their own doubles. What is true? How can you even trust your own eyes?
Their senses are completely betraying them. The Chhalava is using their own perception of reality as a weapon. What is a lie? In that moment, there is absolutely no way for them to know.
And then comes the ultimate psychological attack. The Chhalava just manifests duplicates of all three of them. So now there are 6 men by the fire, each pair identical, each one claiming to be the real one. It's pure chaos. They're turned against each other, on the verge of violence, totally lost inside this illusion.
In this moment of absolute chaos, when everything seems lost, the solution doesn't come from strength or from logic. It comes from a piece of forgotten wisdom.
As his own double is glaring at him, a memory just flashes in Suresh's mind. It's another one of Bolakaka's old stories, a little detail he just dismissed as folklore. The Chhalava, for all its power, has one weakness. It cannot stand yellow light.
Suresh fumbles around for his old dying torch. He clicks it on, and this weak, flickering yellow beam cuts through the darkness. He points it at the duplicates, and as soon as the light hits them, they recoil, their forms just melting like wax as they let out this unearthly shriek, and then they're gone, vanished into smoke.
And this brings us to the story's final, powerful moral, all summed up in this one saying: one should listen to the words of the elders. The very folklore that these men dismissed as just superstition ended up being their only salvation. It really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? In a world that's always rushing towards what's new, what crucial wisdom are we in danger of forgetting from our past?